Ladies and gentlemen, the Mooncast has been brought to you today by Moonbase Chronicles, the double LP from Griffin G. Child release date to be announced. You are listening to Moonbase Radio, and now, back to the show. Once again, I am back. The Mooncast has been brought to you today by Moonbase Chronicles, the double album from yours truly, Griffin G. Child. Release date still to be announced. Now, this is probably one of my favorite segments of the whole Mooncast, including the first 7 Mooncasts. This will probably be my favorite segment here. This is my favorite player in NBA history. Without further ado, we are going to talk about the Scottie Pippen effect. And the reason I called it the Scottie Pippen effect is we're going to talk about his impact on the NBA in today's new era. This is a new era in the NBA. We're going to talk about his impact that was made almost over 20 years ago. So we're going to give you a little bit of facts on Scottie Pippen first. So you have to know the man before you know the plan. So, Scottie Pippen, his name is Scottie Maurice Pippen. He was born September 25th, 1965. He was born in Hamburg, Arkansas. It's a very small town in Arkansas. And he was the youngest of 12 children. His mother's name was Ethel. Father's name was Preston. And his father, actually, bless his heart, passed May 10th, 1990. So what I like most about Scottie Pippen and a lot of players, a lot of human beings in general, I am the youngest of 3 children, so I can relate to be the youngest. But to be the youngest of 12 children is such a small town, small community, and to make it to the level that he made it, I think it's very phenomenal. And it's a blessing for a man of his stature to make it from that environment, make it out, and be a positive contributor in life. Now, his father worked in a paper mill until he had a stroke. The stroke paralyzed his right side. It also slurred his speech, so he wasn't able to go back to work after that. I know that had a big effect on his life when his father died. He actually missed a playoff game. The Bulls were playing the Philadelphia 76ers, and he had to miss a game to attend that funeral. So I know it had a big effect on him. Pippen attended Hamburg High School, and he led his team to the state playoffs, and he made all conference honors as a senior. He was very skinny, real lanky, didn't have a lot of strength. He was weak. He couldn't bench press the bar without any weights on it. Pippen was about 6 foot in high school, and he learned how to play point guard in high school. And so as he hit his growth spurt, he still kept the point guard responsibilities, and he still learned how to run the point. What's most impressive is that he was not offered any college scholarships at all. Pippen began playing college at the University of Central Arkansas in Conway after being discovered by the head coach at the time. His name was Dan Dyer. He was a walk-on. And so the Central Arkansas at that time was in the NAIA. So we're not even talking about NCAA Division 1, 2, or 3. We're talking about the NAIA. So the talent at that level is not that great. And so what's very impressive about Scottie Pippen is that he hit a growth spurt where he went from being 6'1" to 6'8", and he still kept the instincts of a point guard as he hit that growth spurt. And so now of course his mind and body had to equal each other, and that took a while. But once he got all that together, he began to dominate on the college level. As a senior in college, he averaged 23.6 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. And he shot nearly 60% from the field. So he made the NAIA All-American team. And so he was dominating the scene by the time he became a senior. So let's go over some quick numbers from Pippen. In 1983 to 1984, he averaged 4 points a game. His sophomore year, he averaged 18 points a game. Junior year, he averaged 19 points a game. In his senior year, he averaged 23 points a game. So each year, he got better. So his first year, 4 points, 3 rebounds. Second year, 18 points, 9 rebounds. His third year, 19 points, 9 rebounds. And his senior year, 23 points and 10 rebounds. So these are the same numbers that a certain Mr. Ben Simmons is averaging right now for LSU. So it's very, very impressive that each year he got better and better. Coming from such a small community, going to a small school, and he actually went to the school as a walk-on equipment manager. He was actually an equipment manager for the football team, managing equipment. Now, what I like about the fact of him managing equipment, I believe that helped him to be an all-utility person as a basketball player as well. Because in order to manage equipment, you have to be a jack of all trades. You have to know what this person needs, what that person needs. And I believe that he implemented those skills into playing basketball. So, for what I remember, he was invited to the Portsmouth Invitational, which is a senior basketball camp in Portsmouth. I believe it was Portsmouth, Virginia, near the West Virginia-Ohio border. And because of his wingspan, that's another thing I'm going to get to. NBA scouts were starting to pay attention and starting to notice him. His coach had an old buddy by the name of Jerry Krause, and he called Jerry Krause and he talked about this young player that he had and wanted Jerry Krause to take a look at him. So Jerry Krause came to take a look at Scottie Pippen. For those who don't know, Jerry Krause was then the general manager of the Chicago Bulls, but Jerry Krause started off as a scout in, I believe, the 1960s. So he actually scouted a young Phil Jackson at the time. So a lot of history there. He also scouted Earl Monroe in the 60s and 70s as well. So Jerry Krause scouted Scottie Pippen, liked what he saw. Scottie Pippen was then invited to another camp, the Hawaii Invitational. And Scottie Pippen's name was starting to shoot up the draft boards because of his height and his wingspan, his very long arms and big hands, a la Dr. J. So because of this, Scottie Pippen began to shoot up in draft talks. Moving on to the NBA, Scottie Pippen was drafted number 5 by the Seattle Supersonics. The Seattle Supersonics drafted number 5, and the Chicago Bulls had, I believe, the 8th and 10th pick in that draft. And so the Chicago Bulls drafted a player by the name of Odin Polynice, and they also drafted a player by the name of Horace Grant. And so the Bulls were able to trade Odin Polynice for Scottie Pippen. So the Chicago Bulls ended up getting Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant in the same draft. And then the rest is history. But we're going to talk about that history. So Scottie Pippen coming into the NBA, he did not start. He came off the bench for Brad Sellers and Charles Oakley. And his very first game, he had 10 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals in 23 minutes. Of course, coming from such a small area, he was passive and timid at certain times. But something clicked between him and Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan at the time, I believe it was his 3rd year in the league. And so Pippen began to latch on to Michael Jordan. And they began to practice against one another. They would guard one another in practice. And so with Pippen guarding Jordan, I believe it pushed Jordan to be the best that he could be because he had the best defender in arguably one of the best defenders in history, to check him in practice. And then Pippen had the privilege of getting dominated by Jordan in practice as well. So I believe they both fed off of each other. Let's talk about Pippen's first triple-double real quick. His first triple-double came November 23rd, 1990. 13 points, 12 assists, and 13 rebounds. Very impressive performance, with his numbers steadily improving. By the time they got to the year 1990, Pippen was ready, or almost ready, to take that next leap. The Chicago Bulls, for those who know, they ran into the Detroit Pistons, and they just couldn't get over the hump. Michael Jordan was ready to get over the hump, but he didn't quite trust his teammates. Pippen was mentally not ready to get over the hump. Pippen developed a migraine headache. Some people will say that the migraine headache was a fluke, but anybody who's ever experienced a migraine headache knows that it is no joke. The migraine headache could have came from being beat and banged around by the Pistons. At the time, the flagrant fouls and those calls weren't implemented yet, so you basically get maybe $1,000 fine, maybe suspended a game, but then you're right back out there again. So it was a way more physical game at the time. So Scottie Pippen just wasn't ready yet by the year 1990. Now the year 1991 rolled around. I believe by that time he was ready to go, and basically he was able to mentally get over the hump of Detroit, and he had a phenomenal series in the conference finals in 1991 where they swept the Pistons 4-0. Jordan did not like Isaiah Thomas because of some of the dirty tactics that he used. I know Isaiah's thing was to win at any cost, and so I know Jordan didn't quite go for some of the dirty tactics. He felt you could win with class and dignity and with good sportsmanship. So I believe that Pippen has spoke out more against Isaiah Thomas, and that's why today Isaiah doesn't give Pippen any credit. But I believe that is kind of childish. If a player's great, a player's great. I know he does not feel that Pippen was better than him. And so what is very unfair is that Pippen gets stuck with the sidekick label, where players in today's NBA are rewarded for doing the little things. I don't think Pippen was rewarded enough for doing those little things, but we're going to get to that a little bit further along in the story. So the Chicago Bulls won their first championship in 1991 with Scottie Pippen guarding Magic Johnson. They played the Lakers in that finals with Pippen guarding Magic Johnson. It didn't stop Magic, because Magic was going to do what Magic was going to do, but it was able to slow Magic down, and that helped stall out the Lakers' offense. And then you can see the changing of the guard, where the players were becoming faster and more athletic, and you can see the shift coming as we started to go into the 90s, where before you were either a good defender or you were a great offensive player, but you were starting to see the shift of the two-way player. And this is where the Scottie Pippen effect really comes into play as we go into the 90s. So I won't go over every single tidbit because we'll be here for hours upon hours. But another highlight of Scottie Pippen, we'll go over a few highlights. Game 6, 1992 finals. The Bulls were down by 15 in the fourth quarter to the Portland Trailblazers. Scottie Pippen, along with the second unit bench guys, led the team back against the Blazers, and then Jordan was able to come back in the game and help close it out. Another fantastic play, the 1997 finals, where Scottie Pippen was able to steal the inbounds pass, kicked the ball out to Tony Kukoc to seal the deal for the 5th championship. Steve Kerr hit the shot on the previous play. Utah called a timeout, and so Utah tried to make an inbounds pass. Pippen stole it. going to the 90, also in that 97 finals where Jordan had the flu, Pippen actually carried Jordan on the defensive end. And so that is something that he doesn't get credit for. Because one thing any player can do that's sick is that you can still shoot the basketball, but you're not going to play out of defense. So Pippen covered up for Jordan on the defensive end, guarding his man. And in the 1998 finals, this is very, very key here. If you look at the 1998 finals, this is where you'll see glimpses of what teams are doing today, and you'll see glimpses of it with today's Golden State Warriors. The Utah Jazz would go with the lineup of Stockton, Hornacek, Byron Russell, Adam Keefe, and Greg Ostertag. Or you would have Stockton, Hornacek, Byron Russell, Karl Malone, Ostertag, or Adam Keefe. And so Scottie Pippen, instead of checking his original man, he would guard the opposing center, because the opposing center wasn't skilled enough to come get the ball and work with the ball on the low block with a pesky defender on him. And so because of those type of tactics, John Stockton would have to run. It would basically stall out the offense to where Stockton would not pass the ball to that side of the floor, because he was aware that Scottie Pippen could come and pick the ball off. So there is a thing where you have positive steals and negative steals. You have some players that will lead the league in steals, but they're not leading the league in steals because of pesky defense. Some guys like to leak out and they get steals in the passing lane, and so at the end of the day, you see all the steals. But that doesn't mean that you're playing individual defense. What Scottie Pippen would do is he would make the opposing guard or the opposing ball handler think twice about even passing the ball to that side of the floor, therefore disrupting the offensive flow. Now, this is also where the Scottie Pippen effect comes into play, because in those days, in the 90s, the stats or the statistics that were kept at that time were basically points, rebounds, assists, blocks, so on and so forth. In the new analytical movement of today's time, there are different stats that are kept. There are contested shots, altered shots, true shooting percentage, true rebounding percentage, PER, which stands for player efficiency rating. There are so many different numbers and stats that are kept in today's game that weren't kept back then. And so there was no way to really grade what Scottie Pippen was doing in the 90s without actually watching the game and being a true fan of basketball. So when you look at the Golden State Warriors today, they are able to hide Stephen Curry on defense, where Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, Harrison Barnes, Klay Thompson, and most important, Draymond Green, they can cover up ground and stay tight defensively as well as score the ball offensively. And that is a trade that goes back to the Chicago Bulls, because the best players on the Bulls were also the best offensive and defensive players. And so you didn't have to sit a guy down because of his defensive lapses or defensive woes. So the Chicago Bulls would go with the lineup of Jordan, Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc, and you probably go Steve Kerr or Ron Harper. Now, when you go Ron Harper, Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, and Kukoc, that is the traditional small ball lineup of today without a true center, where Rodman would play center. And so a lot of people don't give Rodman the credit as well. He's the only player I've ever seen that was 6'6" that could guard Shaquille O'Neal. A lot of people, you need to go back and watch those tapes. So the Bulls were the traditional team of the future when you start talking about the small ball movement without playing with a traditional center. That was also letting you know that there was going to be a decline in the big man position going forward as well. The big men of today just aren't skilled enough on both ends. You look at a guy like David Robinson, the Golden State Warriors would not be able to play Draymond Green at the center against the Spurs in the 90s because David Robinson could run the floor and rotate out better than anything Draymond Green could ever do. Also, Olajuwon. There's no way that the Houston Rockets in the 90s were going to sit Olajuwon down and be forced to play some sort of small ball game. That's just not going to happen. So that tends to let you know about the skill of today's big man. The skill of today's big man, they're not quick and agile enough on their feet to guard the perimeter. I do feel that maybe Olajuwon and David Robinson would have had some trouble with Golden State at the time in the beginning, but I believe that they would adjust, especially David Robinson. I think he would be great in today's game. He could run the floor with the best of them. But going back to the Bulls in the 90s, I believe they set the tone for what you see today, where high-powered offensive teams aren't just going to be able to win anymore. You have to play both ends of the floor, and the two-way player is going to be very important. Looking at the guys today, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, Damari Carroll, Andre Iguodala. I mentioned Harrison Barnes. I mentioned some of these guys already. A young guy, Jay Crowder. These guys in today's NBA, these are some of the best two-way players. These are guys that can play both ends of the floor. These are guys that are worth gold now. Teams with small forwards that can do both, that can score and play defense, are going to be at a premium because of the declining role in the big man, and that could be because the big men aren't staying in college long enough to develop any game. But going back to that Bulls team once again, Scottie Pippen was very versatile. He could check the team's point guard, and he could play some center. If you looked at, there were times where he would block Hakeem Olajuwon's shot. There were some times where he blocked even Shaq's shot. There were a couple times where he would block Patrick Ewing's shot. So he could play center in small sprints, and I believe that did cause him to have some of the back problems that he had. But if you look in today's game, one of my favorite young players, Kawhi Leonard. He's a quiet, peaceful guy, and he's phenomenal defensively and offensively. He is a guy in the Scottie Pippen mold. He has the big hands, he has the wingspan, and I don't think he can make plays the way Pippen could. And of course, the LeBron James. LeBron James, in my opinion, is a more advanced offensive Scottie Pippen. But I don't think LeBron is as fundamentally sound as Scottie Pippen. Pippen had the bank shot off the glass, very simple, effective shot. And I believe Pippen shot better from the field. Pippen was more fundamentally sound. LeBron takes more steps sometimes getting to the basket. Let's keep it real. But all the stars travel here and there. But Pippen was a little bit more fundamentally sound. But LeBron is like the more advanced offensive version of Scottie Pippen, where Kawhi Leonard is more on par defensively with Scottie Pippen. And so you see the essence of Scottie Pippen in today's game. And I believe that as a society and as social media has grown, I believe we have grown to appreciate the intangibles of the game. We appreciate the diving for loose balls. We appreciate setting a good pick, setting a good screen. We appreciate guys that can guard a point guard, but then slide back and then guard a power forward. So these are things that are more appreciated now, and where they weren't appreciated before. And there is a great quote from Jordan where he said that it may take many years after Scottie Pippen retires for people to truly appreciate him. And every time I see Draymond Green get praised, every time I see Kawhi Leonard get praised, I truly believe that Pippen is the father of the analytical movement, and he is the father of the tangible movement, the intangibles of the game. And so I recommend anybody to go back. There's plenty of clips on YouTube. Look up Scottie Pippen. And then look at Kawhi Leonard, look at Iguodala, look at LeBron, look at Jay Crowder, look at DeMar Carroll. And you'll see the essence of Scottie Pippen in these players' games. Scottie Pippen does not get the credit that he is due because he was, in a lot of minds, a sidekick. But I do believe, in my mind, I believe that he is a top 7, top 5 small forward. I would take him over anybody. That's my opinion, because I want the intangible player first, because I feel you can build around an intangible player easier than you can build around a scorer. So I would take the intangible player first, and then I would go get my scorer. So, but that's just me. There's only 2 small forwards I would probably even take over Scottie Pippen. That's probably would be Larry Bird and LeBron James. I wouldn't take another small forward over Scottie Pippen. I know Elgin Baylor was phenomenal. Dr. J, you had Alex English. You had a lot of phenomenal small forwards that have came through the game today. But those would probably be the only 2 that I would even consider to take over Pippen. Let's go over another highlight of Scottie Pippen. The 1992 Dream Team, a lot of the coaches came away saying that Pippen was probably the best player on that team, or one of the best players on that team. I know Chuck Daly loved him because you could place him anywhere on the floor, and it's easy to coach a player of that caliber. And that's really what I'm looking for when I'm starting a team. It's not necessarily individual talent. I understand from a box office perspective, as far as selling tickets, you want an individual talent. But I'm looking for a player that's easy to coach. That way I can put pieces around that player. Michael Jordan, really didn't know what he had in Scottie Pippen until he went to the Dream Team. And he saw that Pippen was better than a lot of the other guys in the league because he was able to see everybody's practice habits. So Scottie Pippen, he played phenomenal on the Dream Team, very fluid with his ball movement, ball handling. Of course, 2 of the lowest points in his life, of course, was when he sat out the 1.8 seconds against the Knicks in Game 3. I do believe that it was a lot of pressure on him mentally because of being in Jordan's shadow, that he wanted that moment. He wanted that moment for himself. So I'm going to come out and say that it was wrong for him to sit out in that 1.8 seconds. But I don't think people understood the pressure that was on him, trying to carry the team when nobody believed in him. And I believe that the pressure did get to him, where Jordan and some of the other stars never had to feel that pressure because they were given the opportunity to flourish and shine. And so he should have handled it better, but I don't hold that against him because, we make mistakes. And it was very tough on him during that time because I know he wanted to show the world what he was truly capable of. And he led the team in every statistical category. So that was the lowest point of his career. He also threw a chair in the 95 season. Then, of course, the migraine headache. Another low point would have to be the Game 7 meltdown against the Lakers. I was very disappointed that he was not able to get Portland to the finals and try to get that championship without Michael Jordan. I do feel like if he was able to get that title without Jordan, that he would be looked at differently. And so that did break my spirits that he wasn't able to get back to the finals. But maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe him and Jordan were supposed to be attached at the hip. They played some very beautiful, poetic basketball. If you look at the triangle from the 1990s and you look at the movement of the ball, starting with Mike D'Antoni, you see the essence of the triangle in certain offenses. Of course, now it's more high screen and roll, so you don't necessarily see the triangle running fluidly, but you'll see bits and pieces of it. But a lot of that started, like I said, in the 90s during the Scottie Pippen era. I believe Pippen did not get the assist that a lot of the other players got, because he made the pass that led to the pass that got the assist, where maybe Draymond Green is the guy who gets that second pass and kicks it out to Curry or Klay Thompson. So Steve Kerr, who is the coach of the Warriors, he's a very wise and smart person, intelligent person. So he has taken bits and pieces from Mike D'Antoni's 7 seconds or less, as well as the triangle, as well as some of the Greg Popovich Spurs coaching styles, systems, and philosophies, and he has implemented them into the Golden State Warriors system, and I believe that is why Golden State is so dominant today. So you see the essence of Scottie Pippen throughout the NBA today. I'm very happy to grow up during that era and actually see him play. I was not able to see him play in person in his prime. I did see him play when he was past his prime. I saw him play in Cleveland, Ohio against the Cavaliers the year before LeBron got there. It was his last year in Portland. So I got to see him play that last time in person. So I was very, very thankful for that. So he is probably my favorite player ever to ever play the game. He's a very poetic player, so I recommend anybody go back and look up his clips there. So apologize for being long-winded, but I can talk about Scottie Pippen for days. But just look at what the players are doing today. Go back and watch his clips. You'll see the essence of today's game in Scottie Pippen. I do feel like, of course, we love scoring. We love scoring the ball. We love to see shots going in. But I feel like today, good defense is appreciated more. And I feel like Scottie Pippen was the founder of the dominant defense, but also the two-way game, to where you don't have to sit a guy down because he can do both. I do appreciate you guys listening today. Like I said, once again, the Mooncast has been brought to you today by Moonbase Chronicles, the double album from yours truly, Griffin G. Child. Release date to be announced. I'm thankful that you have decided to be here today and to partake on this journey today. We covered a lot of things today, and it wouldn't be possible without all the listeners out there. So let's go ahead and get into what we're going to talk about in the next show. We're going to talk about March Madness time. So I'm not diehard college basketball because I think the pro game is just more refined as far as what the players are able to do. The next Mooncast, we want to take about a 2-3 week break on the Mooncast. I'm going to be focusing on getting you guys a release date on Moonbase Chronicles. So I'm going to take a break on the Mooncast. I do apologize for that. But you can still hit me up on Twitter at Griffin_G-Child. That's GRIFFIN_G-Child, GCHILD. So you can still hit me up on Twitter. Look out for the next Mooncast, March 17th. The one thing you want to keep your eyes on, March 13th is NCAA Selection Sunday. Selection Sunday will be the Sunday where all the teams that are slated to get into the tournament will be selected on that Sunday. So I'm going to go over my picks that Wednesday or Thursday. So March 17th. It's going to be tentative, but look out for that release date, March 17th. Also look out for playoff predictions at that time. By March 17th, you're going to have probably another month left of NBA basketball. So you're going to have to look out for playoff predictions at that time. It's going to be real close to see who's going to get in and who's not. So you don't want to miss that show. So once again, the tentative date, be on the lookout for March 17th. We're going to talk about my NCAA picks as well as playoff prediction picks. I know I was supposed to talk about a couple of NBA teams, so we'll probably get into them on the next one. I'm going to talk about the Portland Trail Blazers, Indiana Pacers, and the San Antonio Spurs, as well as some draft picks. So we'll probably get into that on that one. So the draft picks, I may wait until the tournament is over to talk about the draft picks, because we're going to want to see who has a dominant tournament. So when certain players have dominant tournaments, that can fluctuate their draft stock. So We're probably going to hold off on the draft picks at that time, but we can still talk about the San Antonio Spurs, Indiana Pacers, and the Trailblazers. We're going to talk about the tournament bracket, of course, and the playoff picture. But I hope you enjoyed the history of Scottie Pippen. Like I said, one of my favorite players. And I didn't get all into his stats this time around, but maybe in the future we'll talk more about some of his stats in certain games. We can do that in the future, probably towards the summer when the trade talks and the season's over and everything dies down, and we'll start to dig back into the archives of the nostalgia of the NBA. We'll talk about it then. So, like I said, be on the lookout March 17th for that next Mooncast. You don't want to miss out on that. Well, I have kept you long enough. I do appreciate you hanging in there. This has been the biggest, the baddest, and the greatest Mooncast to date. There will be more, so stay tuned. And hopefully on March 17th, I will have a release date for the Moon-Based Chronicles double LP, as well as some music to listen to. So you never know, so you just don't want to miss out. So just stay tuned. Like I said, hit me up on Twitter at Griffin_Gchild. And we are going to sign off for now. Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for the next Mooncast show, March 17th, 2016. God bless, and thank you for listening.